That's exactly why we're here. We're chasing that discovery, and I feel that we're this close to the treasure hunt. We're right there. All right, so I wanted to start this episode and focus on this episode specifically on a lot of the calls that I'm getting. And I figured this is the perfect venue to talk about all these things so we can discuss it in a little bit more detail for all those people who are all probably asking the same question. A lot of you have been reaching out wondering, where's the press release? Where's the news release? What's going on? Well, a lot of time, the work that we're doing doesn't necessarily warrant this big press release, this big news release. And so a lot of companies are in the same boat that we are, where we're doing a lot of work and there's a lot of time being spent analyzing these things or looking at different options or working through permits. And, you're not necessarily going to put that in a press release, but rest assured, we're working very hard. We're doing a lot of work and we're making sure that we are set for that drill program. The biggest thing right now is realistically, we have three things on the go, three things that are happening that are dictating, what the next steps are. The first and the foremost is the permit. The permit has been put in to the Ontario government and it's now out for consultation with the First Nations. We have 5 First Nation groups that are within our territory. The access that we have for all the different sites that we're looking at is pretty straightforward and standard and shouldn't be an issue. And so we're not expecting any delays from that regard, but it's always possible that something could happen. As soon as we get that permit and we're able to say exactly what we're going to be doing, yes, we'll put out a press release releasing exactly the steps that are going, the targets that we're going after, and the approach that we're going to be taking so that you can come along for that ride with us. The other thing that we're really focusing on right now is determining the best approach for drilling. Now, most of the times in the past, we've used, actually, I think exclusively, we've used diamond drilling. And diamond drilling is fantastic because it gives you a peek into exactly what's happening with the core. And from that, you can determine, what's happening underground. The alternatives that other companies will use is something like reverse circulation drilling, which will give you chips, WAR/V drilling, which is much the same, or, a winky drill or something different, an alternative. And so what we're working through right now is we're exploring if there's an alternative method to diamond drilling that is going to give us bigger bang for our buck, in that we can get more meters for less cost on these sites. Because this is a new target, we're not necessarily looking for a high resolution of data underground. And so that's why we can move away from that diamond drilling and move more towards something that's a lower cost. So we're going to be able to find out if those rocks are mineralized, how well they're mineralized. It won't be the highest resolution, but at this point in time, it's more important that we find out if those rocks are mineralized first. And then in the future, we can come back and then we can define it further with diamond drilling. But first steps first, we want to make sure that it is mineralized underground as it is at surface. So right now we're exploring 8 different targets on the KL West side. And those are all the geochemistry targets that came back from the soil anomalies. And most of those are pairing up really nicely with our magnetic high anomalies. And so from that, we're marrying the two and then looking at all of the data that we have up to that point in time. Surface work that's been done, any previous IP work or other assessment work that's been done by previous operators. So we're trying to basically take all the layers, put everything together to then determine where we're going to drill. Given that there's 8 targets, we have a lot of different things that we're going after, a lot of different area that we want to cover. And so if we can get more meters out of our drill budget, that means that we can hit more of those targets more often, grid them off a little bit better to determine exactly what's going on there. The approach is going to be a little bit different for this drilling this time around because we don't need to necessarily assay exactly the same way that we have in the past. Now, for this particular program, because we're chasing a VMS type of system, something that will show very nicely in the rocks, we can use an XRF where you can actually just zap it and it'll tell you what other elements are in there. If we have an area that we think is going to be high in gold, then that's where we would send those ones off for assay. But what we're looking at here is more of a polymetallic system. And so an XRF would really give us a good understanding of that. So with that, that opens up the methodology to which we can drill. And so we can use different approaches that we wouldn't have used in the past because we're looking at a new system. So those are the things that are happening right now. We're waiting for our permit. I'll be heading up to Kirkland Lake in 10 days, where I'm going to be meeting with Matachewan First Nation, Beaver House First Nation, and I'm going to be heading up to Abitibi First Nation, who is also somebody who's basically raised their head to be like, hey, by the way, we're working in you're working in our area, so we want to talk to you. And during that time, we're going to take a look at some of the different drill sites, check them out to make sure that the access is good for winter drilling. So we're going to take the skidoo out and make sure that we get into those areas. From that, we're looking at, all of the different layers of data to determine the best approach for this drilling, and then talking with a lot of different drill companies to figure out what the most effective, efficient method for drill testing this entire thing is. While this is a lot of work and all these things are going on, I can't explain how excited I am to get out there and drill these targets. This is a brand new system, something that hasn't been tested before. Just a couple of kilometers to the south in a magnetic high, just off that south of that granite intrusion, is 22 plus meters of 2.8% copper, 2.7% zinc, 1 gram per ton gold. Those are the numbers that we're chasing. If we can get a whole system like that, heck yeah, this is a really exciting time for this company. So yeah, I can't wait to get out there and drill test these targets. It's just around the corner.